Hello, Jack McDowell here, Black Jack McDowell, and you're watching the Sports Circus, which is totally cool. So you have a great time watching. Have some fun.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, welcome in, everybody listening in on all of our network affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Thanks for joining us also on all of our streaming platforms, Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, and all the others. All of our cable affiliates, Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, WOW, Charter, and independent cable affiliates. We're applicable, as well as Hotel TV, plus everybody streaming on Chicago Food Favorites. Check out Chicago Food Favorites, folks, on Facebook. It's a fun group. It's a free group. Talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, and your favorite recipes. Post your favorite foods. Have some fun with it. Make some friends. That's Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right. We got all that business taken care of. How about this? How about the idea of, well, when you're announcing a game, you would imagine that when you announce a game, that you announce a game, right? You're sitting in a booth. You're in a protected area. But sometimes things may go awry. Guess what, folks? It does happen not just in the NHL, but it also happens in the American Hockey League. That's right. Imagine this. Hockey announcer confronted by raucous fan, hit with a chair during a live broadcast. What? I have to say that was probably one of the first times I've ever heard of anything like that. And how about this? The Abbotsford Canucks victory in a decisive Game 5 of the second round of the American Hockey League's Calder Cup playoff series against the Colorado Eagles was marred by a chair-throwing incident. What? That's unbelievable. The Canucks, of course, are the Vancouver Canucks minor league affiliate, while the Eagles serve as the development affiliate for the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier, but yes, Abbotsville held a 2-0 lead in the semifinal series when a noticeable noise appeared to briefly distract somebody, and that would be the broadcasting booth. And of course, the broadcaster revealed that the noise was the result of a fan throwing a chair, which ultimately struck him in the leg. Come on, man. This is ridiculous. In fact, the announcer says, got some Yahoo chirping at me from behind. Get him out of here. What was he doing? Security, try that again. Close quote. I can't believe this guy actually got hit by a chair. And so, of course, the broadcaster added, quote, I'm fired up. He threw a chair at me. He hit me right in the back of the leg. Like, what was he doing here? Unreal. Have another beer. Close quote. That's ridiculous. And we're going to keep doing it because you're going to think that will happen. So after the game, of course, the broadcaster took his social media platform to offer an apology for the handling of the situation. In fact, he wrote on X, quote, I could have handled this better, but I was in shock and fired up as well as you could tell, and that has never happened to me before. And I know that one Yahoo does not reflect the Eagles organization or their fans, and apparently was found and kicked out, close quote. I don't know, man. If I was to get hit by a chair, I would probably leave the booth and go down there and rumble with them. And if they didn't want to rumble right there, I'd say, I'd see you out in the parking lot. But then again, of course, that's me. Maybe that's why I'm not broadcasting hockey games. But boy, that's just something you don't hear. I mean, we had, I think this was about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I remember there was a brawl inside the broadcaster's booth in the Detroit Tigers game. And so for you longtime listeners of this show, there was a cat fight sound that I used, a sound effect, and it was actually quite funny. And I don't think I have it on my soundboard here, but what it was a sound bite that was used from that particular fight in the booth. That's right, in the booth from the Detroit Tigers. I use that one time and time over because it's just one of those really funny things. And I mean, it's as far as the cat fight sound goes, I'm not saying the fight inside the booth, of course, because that's never fine. But then again,
I gotta barbecue your ass, Evelyn!
That's Sheriff Buford T. Justice. But I have to say that you don't really see these or you don't hear of that happen too often. But when it does, I mean, someone's got to take notice. You have to make sure that you at least give it the proper props, if you will, because otherwise, what's the fun of talking about it? That's how I look at it. But I just couldn't imagine calling a game and having that happen. It's just remarkably unusual as I see it. But then again, I guess that's what happens when you're a Colorado Eagles fan. And this is, I guess the crowd gets a little bit out of control every now and then. And then again,
Why isn't this an awkward moment?
yeah. Well, look at it this way. Next time
Stop it!
is the actual word that needs to happen. But really, folks, it is very unusual for something like that to happen. But the Detroit Tigers thing, that was, I mean, look, it was funny, but it wasn't funny. I guess it just depends on your sense of humor. For me personally, I thought it was hilarious because you don't hear of a brawl starting in a booth and ending in the booth in the first place. So nonetheless, that's what happens in hockey. So the hockey fights happens also in the seats as well, in case you didn't know. And of course, me being a beloved Chicago Blackhawks fan, we have seen a lot of nonsense in the seats between the Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings fans and even on the ice.
Detroit sucks! Detroit sucks!
And what happens is at those games between Chicago and Detroit, it is so ugly. The fans, they fight just as much as what happens on the ice. And this goes back to the ownership. Here's a little hockey trivia for you. So there was a relation between the Blackhawks owner and the Detroit Red Wings owner, right? So they're family. And so the Detroit Red Wings owner would bust down about 5,000 of their fans down I-94 from Detroit to Chicago to make that 4-hour drive. And they would make every game like a playoff game. And so, of course, because the fans didn't like it, and needless to say, the Detroit Red Wing fans would come in and they would start all kinds of nonsense. So as soon as the organ player would play that song, the whole stadium would just simply, well, except the Detroit fans, would say,
Detroit sucks!
and even the players would say it too. It's something I've never seen in sports. And what's really interesting is whenever that is played at the United Center, even the old Chicago Stadium, whenever that dun 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 part is played, whether Detroit is on the ice, in the building, in the area code, in the state, or whatever, that is the common song or the lyrics to that particular, I guess, that little riff here.
Detroit sucks!
Everybody seems to say it.
Detroit sucks!
What's cool about it is that they don't even have to be at the game. It's just that's how much the fans dislike each other. And of course, it's the same thing when the Blackhawks go to play in Detroit. But here's a little trivia for you that you may not have known. So the ownership of the Blackhawks and the Red Wings, of course, has relations. They had real estate deals together and so forth. And in fact, they used to own, way back in the day, back in the 1960s, they owned a building down in St. Louis. It was like an old deteriorating dome and whatnot. So you think about it, you're like, well, I don't know, what can we do with this thing? they say, well, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We need another team in our division. That would be the NHL Norris division. So back in the day. And so what they did was it was the Blackhawks and it was the Red Wings ownership between the two of them that is actually responsible for the St. Louis Blues. Now, of course, that applause is short-lived because the Blues, here was the deal with them. The Blues were guaranteed a trip to the Stanley Cup Finals back in 1967, their first year, only because they were a new team. They were the only team of that kind that actually got a free trip to the Stanley Cup Finals because they were a new squad. And people say, well, the Vegas Golden Knights, they got a trip to the Stanley Cup Finals, but they earned it. They absolutely earned it. And so people could complain. They say, well, you know, they got it. Yeah, they got there. They played the Washington Capitals. They beat them the first game. I was at that game. And a season ticket holder for the first 6 years of the Vegas Golden Knights. But I could say that they earned their way. They didn't get any favorable anything. They just happened to have a good draft. They put all the right pieces together. And that's all, of course, George McPhee, our friend here at the Sports Circus, the great George McPhee. Of course, George always gets a round of applause here on the show. And we'll give this to George just because. But I will tell you that it was the St. Louis Blues that was born because of the Detroit Red Wings and the Chicago Blackhawks. Back here in a few minutes with a little bit more hockey news. Don't go anywhere, lots more to come. Here on the home of the Vegas Golden Knights on 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM on Highway Country Radio in sunny Southern California. Don't go anywhere. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMTV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. Check them out, folks. All right, welcome in, everybody. Listening in on all of our affiliates, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees, San Francisco 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome in, everybody else up and down the West Coast, from Seattle all the way down to Southern California. Everybody driving on Interstate 15, listening in on Highway Country Radio, 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM on that drive from Vegas to LA and LA to Vegas. Thanks for joining us there all the way through the heartland. Over to our friends in Auburn, Alabama, WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves. Thanks for driving home with us, and thanks for waking up with us on WDJY 99.1 FM over in Atlanta, plus everybody else on all of our affiliates. You name it, we're there. You can't get away from us, folks. Also, I want to run this by you here because, listen, our friends over at Vacation Buddies, they have a couple of nights waiting for you. If you could collect, or better yet, if you can name this basic trivia question answer, and if you can call them with the answer, you could pick up 2 nights in Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida. And here's the question. Which NBA superstar has 6 NBA titles to his name? Is it Magic Johnson, A, Shaquille O'Neal, B, Kobe Bryant, C, or Michael Jordan, D? Think you know the answer? Call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Again, trivia question, real simple. Which NBA superstar has 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Magic Johnson, B, Shaquille O'Neal, C, Kobe Bryant, or D, Michael Jordan? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Brought to you by Vacation Buddies, who is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you 2 free nights in Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida. If you know the answer to that basic trivia question, 888-576-5777. All right, moving on here. So in the last segment, it was an announcer getting hit with a chair in the broadcast booth in the in the finals in the American Hockey League between essentially the farmhands for Vancouver and Colorado. Boy, I guess they really don't like each other. We talked a little bit about some stadium riff. But then again, within the Washington Capitals system, there was kind of a mess up over there saying that, oh, by the way, the Capitals, Alex Ovechkin, the NHL's all-time goal-scoring leader, they said that he remains undecided whether he's going to play or not next season. But that was, a mistake. And so apparently that was sent in error. So the Capitals do clarify, announcing that Ovechkin's final season was sent in error. That's right. Well, there you go. Weird things happen, folks. And by the way, in case you're wondering about the Stanley Cup Finals, So Sal the bookmaker right here, that would be me, is pretty good at picking games and whatnot. Been doing it for quite some time, about 82.4% against the Vegas line. That's right, 82.4, not in the 60s like some of these other alleged experts. And why is it? It's because simply I follow the money. I know how to follow the money. I don't care what the weather report is for games. I don't care about the injury reports. I don't care what the sabermetrics say in baseball or all the analytics say and whatnot. It doesn't really matter. Because you know what matters? The money knows all. It's all about the money.
Show me the money!
And I'll show you a winner. The reality is, folks, if you know how to follow the money, some people do, some people don't. I've been doing it since I was a little kid. And so I'm pretty good at it. But then again, well, let's face it, a lot of people think they're good at it, but then when they put their money up, then things go a little bit different. So as far as the Stanley Cup Finals, look, you've got 2 teams left. And I'm not going to tell you which way I'm leaning. You're going to have to hit me up at info@thesportscircus.com for that information, and maybe we might be able to put something together. But the reality is, folks, you got 2 teams that played each other last year, and they played each other into a 7-game series as well. Now, you could say, well, Florida got out to a 3-0 lead, and then they almost blew it in Game 7. Or you could say that Florida was rolling, and then the money wanted 7 games for the advertising. Maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe they didn't. But think about this. The Florida Panthers now in their 3rd straight Stanley Cup final. So if you know anything about hockey, you know that Paul Maurice is doing a wonderful job as the coach for the Florida Panthers. That's right. And honestly, I don't know how Edmonton got to where they're at besides all the convenient power plays that were called, the penalties that were called against their opponents throughout the different series that they've had. Because when you look at what road the Edmonton Oilers had, you say, well, geez, these are 3 big and heavy teams that they've had to play, and somehow all those teams seemingly made the same mistake. And so I don't necessarily believe that. And we're going to do a show coming up here with our ESPN rules analyst, our hockey analyst, and that would be retired referee Dave Jackson. So he does all the ESPN games, and he's the guy that will answer a lot of questions for you. But as I look at this, I say, all right, I think Edmonton had a very easy track when I'm talking about penalties called and so forth. I believe that Edmonton was given that road to get back into the Stanley Cup Finals. Now, are they worthy to play the Florida Panthers, who obviously that's the 3rd time in a row they've been there? They lost to Vegas. They beat Edmonton. Now they're going to play Edmonton again. Is this the even up for Edmonton? Does the money want that? Or is the money going a different direction? Now that's up to you to decide, and that's up to you. If you want to contact me at info@thesportscircus.com, and we can chat about that. And who knows, you may want to pick up some information. Listen, at the end of the day, I look at things a little bit different than other people, and my record against the line is pretty damn good. When I say the line, that's the Vegas line. So each team has its share of stars. But think about this. You could ride a hot goalie all the way through to the Stanley Cup Finals and win the cup. You're going to hoist the cup, and it could be either guy. I mean, you never know. You've got 2 guys over there in Edmonton that could bring you to a cup. And you've got 1 guy that seems to be unconscious for his whole career. He's that good, even when he was with Columbus. Columbus didn't realize what they had in Bobrovsky. Well, guess what? Does Bobrovsky stay hot, and can he stop Draisaitl and McDavid and the rest of the gang? And Corey Perry is really playing well for a 40-year-old guy, but Corey Perry really shouldn't be allowed to play in the league as I see it, because he allegedly retired just so we can get away from the Blackhawks, because he was like, well, I don't want to be in a losing situation. And then he unretired, which I think is really poor. I don't know. It's poor sportsmanship. And Corey Perry hasn't won a Stanley Cup since his rookie year 20 years ago. Is this Corey Perry's year to, I guess, shake off the cobwebs? Does he retire if he ends up winning a cup this year against Florida? I don't know. But it sure seems to me that Corey Perry is on a pretty good path, and Evander Kane is playing very good hockey. The difference between these 2 squads is you got a little bit more on the superstar department up front for Edmonton, and you've got more defensive strength and in the goal between the 2 over on the Florida side. And so in baseball, they say pitching wins championships. In hockey, they say defense and goaltending wins championships, but still, you got to put the puck in the net. And remember, since Edmonton is so good on the power play, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's almost like fishing with dynamite. Those guys are so good on the power play that Florida, like everybody else, has to stay out of the box. The question is, are the officials going to swallow their whistles and let them play, or are they going to call every damn penalty against Florida that they possibly can just to make this a series? Because that's what we saw in the final 4 games of last year's Stanley Cup, because it was Florida running away with it, but then the officials suddenly got whistle happy, and then suddenly there was a lot of power plays that happened for the Edmonton Oilers. Does the National Hockey League want a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup? We haven't had one for quite some time. Maybe that's going to be the call. I don't know. And actually, I have an idea, but I'm not going to talk to you about it right here. I will tell you that there's a lot more to picking these games and picking these series than you could imagine. And so they say, well, this team touched this trophy, this team touched that trophy, it's bad luck, whatever. It doesn't matter. None of that crap matters. But what matters is at the end of this whole rodeo is that who hoists the cup. And what's interesting is they even changed it to, well, who's going to raise the cup? No, it's always been who's going to hoist the cup. And so make sure you get that phrase in your head. And so when you're at the sports book, placing your bet at the casinos versus online, reading everything you can, just remember, people are picking these picks, all these alleged experts are picking the picks based off of statistics. And statistics are only as good as what? The last performance. They don't give the probability of certain events happening. That's why there's the continual struggle between statistics and probability. In case you don't know that, that's a real thing, folks. So make sure you learn the difference between the two. Info at thesportscircus.com. We're going to be back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone,
Quiet,
Steve Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, prior guests, recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, make sure that you check out the partners page. Lots of great partners at thesportscircus.com. Go ahead and thumb through those. Have some fun with those. Check out Al's #1 Italian beef, by the way. That's one of our favorites. 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Al's #1 Italian beef. And if you can't get over there for some great food, check them out online at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. We love that one. That's one of our favorites. All right. And in case you missed it in the last segment, there was a trivia question to pick up a couple of nights. If you had the right answer, a couple of nights in Vegas, a couple of nights in Branson, Missouri, or a couple of nights in Orlando, Florida. And if you have the answer to this trivia question, you'll have a chance to pick up whichever one you're after, whether it was Vegas, Branson, or Orlando. And so, if you know the answer, call 888-576-5777 to this question. Which NBA star has 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Magic Johnson, B, Shaquille O'Neal, C, Kobe Bryant, or D, Michael Jordan? Again, which NBA star has 6 championships? 6. A, Magic Johnson, B, Shaquille O'Neal, C, Kobe Bryant, or D, Michael Jordan? If you know the answer, call right now, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Again, 888-576-5777. Brought to you by Vacation Buddies, who is not affiliated with this station, but boy, they want you to travel, so get in touch with them, 888-576-5777. All right. How about this? We're going to jump into baseball for just a minute here. College baseball, it's been really a very controversial space lately because of all the name, image, and likeness, whatnot, just like with football. College baseball is getting a little bit more popular when it comes to the NIL money, and it's getting a little bit tougher, seemingly, to be a member of a team. How about this one? How about Seton Hall University? They don't really make the media too much, but how about this one? According to Fox News, former Seton Hall pitcher details sexual hazing, blood injuries, and whatnot, and says the coach failed to act. What? Former pitcher describes a brutal hazing ritual and accuses Coach Rob Shepard of failing to stop the toxic culture. This one's by Ryan Morick of Fox News. We want to make sure we give the credit where it's due. And so this one actually resulted in a lawsuit. I mean, what a big fat mess this was. I can't even imagine this. And look, when you're playing ball at a high level, whether it's college or whether it's professional or whatever it is, I mean, look, it just gets to be a little bit of a tighter circle, if you will, but it just gets a little messy sometimes too. And this is the part where people say, well, you want to be a part of something, so you're going to have to deal with it. So there's a lawsuit filed here, and the lawsuit claims that former Seton Hall pitcher was the subject of hazing by his teammates, including gross sexual acts. And the former pitcher, whose name has not been publicly identified, says he was, quote, spitting blood everywhere, close quote, during one incident, and the hazing dashed his dream of making the big leagues. So the lawsuit claims that nude and violent wrestling, as well as a masturbation ritual, are just some of the hazing incidents, according to Fox News. This isn't me, folks. I'm reading it right here on Fox News. And so, listen, it's wrong. I mean, look, I think there might be some exaggeration here, but then again, I'm not the reporter, and the reporter on this one, of course, is not me. It happens to be Ryan Morick. So if you have a beef, go to him with it. Nonetheless, the players in the lawsuit claim he was forced to show his parts to other players, and he was called a beep when he did not oblige. And of course, the player told the New York Post, quote, "What's going on in the locker room is some sick stuff," close quote. So the suit alleges that head coach Rob Shepard and the school had ignored complaints and, quote, failed to investigate or discipline the perpetrators, allowing the toxic culture to persist. And then, continue on with that quote, "There's got to be some accountability taken by the coach, and he's got to lay his foot down and take control of that whole situation and try to make things a lot better," close quote. So the player eventually quit the team and left the school before ever playing a game. And of course, he had said, quote, "It was a dark time for me. I was sad and depressed. I was down in the dumps every day," close quote. Now, the suit claims that the player moved to a Division III school and, quote, cost him a season of eligibility, diminishing his visibility and professional baseball prospects. In fact, to spend my whole life trying to get to that point, and I finally got there, and then had this all happen, and it's just derailed my whole career, close quote. So the player had explained also. Now, the university sent the following statement to Fox News Digital, quote, "Seton Hall is firmly committed to fostering a safe, respectable, and inclusive environment. Upon learning of certain allegations earlier this year, the university promptly retained nationally respected third-party investigator to conduct an independent and thorough review. As litigation is ongoing, we are unable to commit further and comment further at this time," close quote. So you ask yourself, does this go on? Is this really going on? Well, obviously, apparently it went on. They went on so far as to, I guess, bring a lawsuit here. But what about the other universities? Does this happen? Now, me personally, I've never seen that kind of thing happen, luckily. But I've heard of certain things happening. And when you're on a team and you are competing in Division I sports of any kind, not Division III, different animal, Division I sports, you say, well, what really is going on? Do we see that in baseball? I guess. Do we see it in football? We've heard about that. Do we see it in basketball? I have not really heard about that in basketball. What about other sports too? What about wrestling? I mean, the idea of this nude wrestling thing, well, as I see it, apparently that takes at least 2 wrestlers. So if that was the case, I don't know if this particular player was doing that kind of thing, but I can assure you that it takes more than one person. I've never heard of one person wrestling with themselves. I don't know. Have you? So obviously there was some participation somewhere, but it was, I don't know, it was something that was stated. But what we don't know is, was that person coerced into doing it, if that's what they were doing? Or were they witnessing something? That's the next question. But then again, you have to ask yourself, why didn't the player say something right there and then if the player was worried about this? And why didn't the player just come right to the coach right there and then? That's my question. And I'm saying that from a third-party standpoint. I don't know. I wasn't there. But if that was something where I had witnessed it, they always said, if you see something, say something. Well, in that particular case, certainly this particular player saw something. And I want to know, what is the time from the moment that the player actually said anything, or was it set up to go right to the news and report something? And so if you go back into the statement, you say, well, all right, the suit claims the player moved to a Division III school and allegedly cost him a season of eligibility, diminishing his visibility and professional baseball prospects. Okay, and this particular guy says, to spend my whole life trying to get to that point, and I finally got there, and then this had all happened. It derailed his career. Okay, well, that's something. But then the bigger question beyond that is that there was a claim of the player eventually quit the team. We got that before ever playing a game or before even playing a game. Now, was that going on before the regular season started? Was it going on during the regular season? And was the player not getting any playing time in the first place? These are the questions that I'm sure this independent investigator is going to be looking into. Because if the player was technically riding the bench anyway and basically using some events that may have happened that may or may not have happened, who knows? But the reality is, if that particular player who's not getting the playing time is using events that go on to, I guess, now transfer to try to pick up an extra year of eligibility. So tell you what ends up happening is you take a D1 player that goes to D3. In Division III, you can get away with basically any age you want. You could be 60 years old out there playing baseball because there are no age requirements and there's no college clock, so to say, for Division III athletics. And so this particular player went to a D3 school, which they had mentioned, and so therefore that takes away that eligibility issue. But he also said that, well, it may have damaged his baseball career prospects for something on a bigger level. I'll tell you what, in today's time, listen, everybody is visible, whether it's the JUCO players, the D3, D1, D2, whatever. They're all visible. Right here in the greater Las Vegas Valley, we have the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. That is a junior college which produces a lot of big league prospects and big names in the big leagues, including Bryce Harper. And so I don't necessarily buy the D3, well, it may have hampered this, that, or the other. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Did the stuff go on? I don't know. I really don't know, but I think there's a lot more to this story for this particular player at Seton Hall. And who knows, maybe, in my opinion, he may be smearing the school a little bit just for his own benefit, trying to get something out of it. Back here in a few on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com's upcoming schedule. Our prior guests, all of our recorded shows could be found on our streaming platforms. Again, Apple, Amazon, Audible, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, whatever, all those. Plus a whole lot more. Also, make sure you check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, a fun page for you to talk about your favorite foods, post your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes, and whatever. Have some fun, make some friends. Also, make sure you check out the store at thesportscircus.com, as well as shameless plug, of course, for the show and for its merch. Lots of great hats, hoodies, t-shirts, sweatpants, mouse pads, and pillows, and coats, and ball caps and whatnot, even your ski cap beanies, all kinds of neat stuff. Check it out. That's the store at thesportscircus.com. Mention Ringmaster Sal and get an extra 10% off. All right. Now, I don't know about everybody listening in, but I happen to be one of those guys that I love softball. Like, I'm not saying I like to play it. I like to watch women's softball, collegiate level, pro level, high school level. It's fun. As a former baseball player, I can tell you it seems a hell of a lot more fun to play softball for the women than it is for the guys, because it's just straight hardcore competition. Not to say that the women don't compete, because they certainly do. But what I like is it seems like every pitch is like the World Series. If you've ever seen a game in Japan, it's much the same way. And so, in fact, it's so exciting that Major League Baseball has decided to invest in Athletes Unlimited Softball League, in the Athletes Unlimited Softball League ahead of its new season. Hey, that's good news. That's some good news for a change. So this is by the Associated Press, and Major League Baseball is investing in Athletes Unlimited to support its softball league that will debut next month, marking the first time Major League Baseball will have a comprehensive partnership with a professional women's sports league. So MLB said it was making a strategic investment, which is north of 20% in the Athletes Unlimited Softball League, of an undisclosed amount for operational cost, and a commitment to help it gain visibility in various ways, including assistance with content, marketing and sales, events, distribution, editorial, and digital and social platforms. Hey, that's pretty good stuff. In fact, that includes marketing the AUSL and its athletes during Major League Baseball's All-Star Game and throughout the postseason. In fact, Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred told the Associated Press, quote, "This is something we're really excited about. We studied the space hard. We think it's a real opportunity, and we're excited to be involved." Close quote. My question is, what is the opportunity? So why can't Major League Baseball just invest the money and not have to publicize it? Why do they have to say that we put a whole bunch of money into something? Why can't they just let the Athletes Unlimited League just grow on its own? And so he goes on to say, quote, the goal is to get a softball league into the same position of stability that the WNBA has found, close quote. And what position is that? That's according to The Athletic, by the way. And so you asked the WNBA. So without Caitlin Clark, the league has sharply declined in popularity and ticket sales. And let's face it, without Caitlin Clark, I think Caitlin Clark is the savior of the NBA. I don't think it's anybody else, because the league has been spiraling, already being in the basement, in my opinion, just spiraling down to the core of the earth, just not going anywhere. People not really going. It doesn't matter right here in Las Vegas, multiple-time champion, whatever. They don't draw like one would imagine. And honestly, the women play a fundamentally sound basketball game. But people, generally speaking, the general audience just doesn't give a damn about the NBA. And part of that, in my opinion, is due to the NBA. So the NBA, here, I'm getting off on a tangent on this, but I'm going to finish this thought up. The NBA owns most of those franchises from city to city to city. Unfortunately, it seems as though the NBA doesn't do their part in marketing the league and to really getting this out there to the public in the way that they do with the NBA. The WNBA is really suffering, in my opinion, and I know some of those former players, some of those former champions. I have to tell you, their stories are everlasting with me. I've heard them from Janelle Burse, WNBA champion, from Alicia Thompson, WNBA champion, and on and on and on. And even Adrienne Goodson, I've heard it from her, 5-time champion in Brazil, all-star in the WNBA, and so forth. And these are friends of mine. And I just scratch my head and say, well, what the heck can we do here for the NBA or the WNBA in the first place? And they say it just takes more money, and the NBA doesn't seem to want to spend the money. Now, Major League Baseball is spending some money on the AU League, the Athletes Unlimited League. So, in fact, the Athletes Unlimited has featured softball for 5 years. And, of course, when it unveiled a unique format, that crowned an individual champion as well. So that was kind of cool. That's what it actually put this thing together. So the company will launch a league with a traditional team-based format starting on June 7th, and will keep its individual format for the AUSL All-Star Cup that follows. Now, Commissioner Manfred noted that the interest in women's sports had, quote, escalated significantly, close quote, in recent years, and has his league been looking for ways to get more involved, including the possible launch of its own softball league. He said Athletes Unlimited's overall success and its strong infrastructure helped makes the decision to collaborate a lot easier. In fact, he goes on to say, quote, we thought rather than starting our own and competing, that finding a place where we could invest and grow a business was a better opportunity for us, close quote. So maybe Manfred says it's a better opportunity for us, but what about for the women? So it may be a better opportunity for Major League Baseball corporate, but what about the women? So Kim Ng, I don't know how to say the name, NG. Kim Ng, I guess. Kim Ng, a former Major League Baseball executive, signed on as an advisor with the AUSL and was promoted to commissioner in April. And this particular individual is the former general manager of the Miami Marlins, the first female GM in any major U.S. pro sport league, which actually that's not true. That's what they said, because the first real general manager, as I understand it, it happens to be the former general manager for the Philadelphia Eagles way back when Leonard Tost owned the team, and his daughter was the GM, as I understand it, for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I know the granddaughter, Marnie Schneider. I've had Marnie on the show several times, and she said her mom was actually the first GM, the first female GM in professional sports history. But then again, who knows? And so, of course, this particular individual has, of course, some real World Series rings and a combined 21 years in the front offices of the Chicago White Sox, New York Yankees, and the LA Dodgers. In fact, Manfred said also, quote, as the process moves forward and it looks like we're going to make an investment, they hired Kim and We had a long relationship with Kim, and it just added additional comfort to the idea of making the investment, close quote. So, Athletes Unlimited co-founder John Patterkoff said MLB commitment to increasing AUSL's visibility is as important as the financial investment itself. And of course, he had said, quote, they're committed to really elevating the AUSL. It's probably about one of the most difficult things that any sports leagues do, which is to get visibility and break through to new audiences. And I think Major League Baseball is ready to do that for the AUSL, and there's going to be a lot more to come, close quote. So women's pro softball leagues and independent teams have come and gone over the years, but none have offered a consistent option for women to have a stable future in the sport. Now, I would agree to that. So it appears that might change, though, with the help of softball greats Kat Osterman, Jenny Finch, Jessica Mendoza, Natasha Watley as AUSL advisors. On June 7th, the Bandits and the Talons will open with a 3-game series in Rosemont, Illinois, and that is right next to the airport area in Chicago where O'Hare. So Rosemont is the adjacent town, and the Blaze and the Volts will start off with a 3-game set in Wichita. So the 4 teams will play 24 games this season as touring properties that will play games in 12 cities. So they're going to bring it on to the roadshow, kind of like the Savannah Bananas. Boy, they have really done a great job. Now, the top 2 teams will compete in the AUSL Championship, a best-of-3 series, July 26, 27, 28, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But the thing that I don't understand, they only have 4 teams. I mean, you kind of got to have more than 4 teams, in my opinion. They're going to play 24 games. You should probably have 8 teams, because then they could take the 8, take the top 2, and then it makes a little bit of sense. With 2 of the 4 just being the champions, well, you've got a 25% chance right out the gate of being the champion. So Patrikoff said the league plans to expand to 6 teams next season and be city-based, but then again, you've got only 4 teams competing here. But Major League Baseball already supports several women's softball and baseball initiatives, including a partnership with USA Softball, and operations of Major League Baseball develops girls baseball pipeline, and it's not involved with the upstart Women's Professional Baseball League, which plans to launch in 2026 as the first pro baseball league for women since the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, the old A League of Their Own, remember that movie? And it folded back in 1954. And so, of course, Manfred said, quote, I fully expect that they will expand, and we hope that we will end up with a league that is sustainable on its own, a good investment for us, and a partner in growing diamond sports internationally, close quote. So all this stuff said, you say, okay, great. Again, he keeps saying investment for us, investment for us. How about an investment for the women? How about giving the women a shot to do something on the professional level without having to edit the credit and say, oh yeah, look at your big brother over here because we're the one paying for it. They should just be simply happy for the ladies and let the ladies do their thing, because I got to tell you, folks, women's softball is legit. I mean, it is legit. Those ladies, they can play. They can throw hard. They hit hard. They field great. And if you're mistaken, if you think, you're full of crap, if you don't believe me, go watch a high school game. Go watch a college game. The ladies bust their asses, and they are working hard. They work just as hard as the guys do, and they're now given some kind of a platform. So let's not let Rob Manfred's message of look at me, look at me, look at us, look at us. Let's let the ladies do what they do and have some fun and build their own professional league. That's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Remaster Sal. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your Vacation Buddies station. And by the way, check out that free trip to either Vegas, Branson, or Orlando, 888-576-5777 with the answer to that trivia question. Jackson, or actually it is Johnson, Shaq, Kobe, or Jordan. So long, everyone.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.